crucial right now that we all have an opportunity to make a difference because the world is so chaotic and not the normal that we need to really dive deeper into those key pieces that we can all find within ourselves to make a difference.
Well, and if you think about it, right now, leadership of an organization is just as, I don't want to say confused, but just as kind of up in the air as anybody is. And if you really think about it, nobody's ever been through a pandemic. Nobody's ever had to, in a matter of months, create a virtual plan, do stuff online. So leadership is really, at this point, and we've had call after call and podcast, I mean, dozens, maybe in the hundreds now.
Yeah.
Talking to people about kind of where leadership is at, where's their head at. And truthfully, they're looking to us. And I mean us, meaning our industry, the professionals in our industry, they're looking to us to kind of tell them where to go from here.
Well, the leadership is the decision makers, and they don't know what to be making decisions on right now.
Right.
They haven't budgeted for certain things and the pivots that everyone had to make. And so they're looking to people who have done it before as the experts to give them some advice and kind of that key idea there to bring value.
Yeah, and if you think about it, everything we do in the events business is value driven, right? I mean, it's all about delivering a result for the audience and, of course, bringing a result to the leadership and what they need. And so what we were going to do today is just take a few short minutes with you to talk through things you can do to add value to the leadership of your organization as a part of the events team or even events leadership. So I want to start by talking about most important, and I've been in the events business 17 years now.
Wow.
It's hard to believe.
I think I got my start right around 15, 16 in the wedding side of the events industry, and gosh, that was 12 years ago now.
Yeah.
More than that.
Yeah, and if you think about it, over the years, you see what works, you see what doesn't work, and the beauty of our community is we always have new people, right? There's new blood always in the events world. And
helps with innovation.
It totally helps with innovation. But what I wanted to do is I want to touch on something that's near and dear to me, something that I know you will walk away with something really substantial here. And that is, it took me years to figure this out. You have to become an expert. And what I mean by that is you have to choose really what you're going to be good at and be known for being good at that thing. I think the events business is notorious for having, we're all trying to kind of do everything.
Right.
And oftentimes you're having to wear multiple hats because you have to. But really, when it comes to the leadership of an organization, they're looking to us to really be good at something, whether that's knowing our audience numbers, or you're really good at analytics and data, or you're really, really good at designing the overall experience, or maybe you're just in event marketing, but finding that niche, that thing that you're good at, and then going really, really deep, almost like getting your PhD. I saw a diagram one time, I don't remember where it was, but it was like, this is, all of the knowledge in the world, and then it like zoomed into this little point, and it was like, this is your master's degree, and then it zoomed in closer, and it was like, this is a PhD, and it's like, you almost want to get your PhD in something that is super, super specific, and then be known for being really good at that. One of the things we talk about all the time is, how do you become great?
Right.
You become great by doing it more than anybody else. Like, think about any amazing athlete. Take your favorite athlete.
Well, the Michael Jordan documentary just came out recently.
Yeah.
So let's reference Michael Jordan.
Okay, So in my opinion, Michael Jordan became the greatest of all time because he simply did it more than anyone else and was more obsessed. While all the guys were partying till 2 a.m, Michael Jordan would go to bed early and he'd get up early and he'd be at practice before anybody else. So it really does come down to doing it more than anyone else, or studying it more than anyone else.
All right, but what if people watching the presentation are thinking about how they have work-life balance, because we all know in the events industry it's super hard to achieve that work-life balance. How do you be obsessed and be great if you are also striving for that work-life balance?
Okay, so this is a hard question, because if you look at any of the world's greatest at anything, they don't have work-life balance. They have work obsession. Now, I'm not saying that has to be your life, but I will say if you want to become the Michael Jordan of what you do, work-life balance is not a thing. You know, it's some soft concept that we, developed in order to have some sort of mental health, right?
I'll take that argument, because I have a feeling if many of the people watching this are like we are, they love the events industry. They love their job. They are what they do at their core.
Totally.
So yes, I'll go with that argument.
Yeah, I now look, I am married. I have 3 kids. And I do make a point to make sure I'm dad and husband and the whole thing. But at the end of the day, if you want to drive massive results or become insanely good, you also need a support system at home that's going to support you in that. Now, I know a lot of people, we have a lot of women in the events industry.
Yep.
And I know that sometimes you go, oh, well, Charles, you're a man. It's easier for you. Look, I don't know if I have the answer to that. All I can tell you is that in order to become great, you have to obsess over it. And look, you can still have kids and be at home and be obsessed and learning. I mean, come on. How much time do you spend scrolling Instagram?
Probably way too much time, to be honest with you.
I'm telling you.
I mean, I know I spend too much time, and that's not adding value if we're talking about value in any context of the word.
Well, and if you think about it, that kind of leads me to the next piece of this, which is educating yourself, right? Because if you're going to become an expert on something, you really do have to educate yourself and become so smart about that thing.
Right.
So like my big, I came in the office today actually, and I was like, all right, everybody to the conference room, like Michael Scott.
Oh, yep.
It was not that bad. Okay. And she's like, yeah, it was. But I sat everyone down and I said, we're going to listen to this segment out of this audiobook today. And we all listened together as a team. And it brought some great conversation to the surface. And here's what I want to ask you, because I asked Paige and everybody else, what are you doing on a daily basis to put good knowledge into your mind? Are you listening to a podcast a day? Are you putting a book in your mind? Look, I know that it's easy to hop in your car and turn the car on, and all of a sudden whatever's on the radio is whatever you're listening to. And I would challenge you to be more deliberate. There are so many great podcasts in the events world, in the leadership realm. There are fabulous, there's endless audiobooks out there.
You know the one recently you told me to listen to, The Art of Seduction? Because I think it teaches you so many pivotal pieces on how to look at ways to solve problems and add value. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk so passionately about this, is that book you had me listen to recently really spoke to getting granular on what leadership wants and what a person wants and how you are the person to give it to them.
Well, and that is actually a really good book, because it doesn't just play into seduction like in the traditional sense, but it's understanding human psychology and understanding certain people, leadership or coworkers, are going to be driven by different things, right? And you almost have to know how to work with and communicate with people that maybe you don't want to or you don't like. You might have somebody on the leadership or even on your own team where you're like, I don't really like this person, but we got to get along and we got to do great work together. So it gives you an advantage when you educate yourself and you listen to books on how to deal with people. There's another really great book I love called How to Talk to Anyone by Leah Lowndes. And I think I said her name right. She reads the book in the audiobook, but it's all these really interesting techniques on how to understand how is someone feeling, how to read their nonverbals, how to when someone's having a day.
Oh yeah, we talk about that quite frequently in our office.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to how do you read that? Some people are really intuitive. They don't need to read a book on it. But a lot of us were like, oh man, I really just need to work on this a little for myself.
Okay, so highlight that a little bit more in depth, because we all are salespeople at heart. And where I'm going with this is, or in nature, we all need to be salespeople in nature for what we're doing in the events industry. We're selling an idea, we're selling ourselves, we're selling our company, we're selling our product, we're selling our vision to vendor partners.
Before you continue on that, I want to clarify, I think what you're saying is, no matter what your role is, in some capacity, you are a part of the sales process.
Right.
You are a salesperson in a way, whether you're upselling on the operations side, or your internal just selling a vision to the leadership or your coworkers. You have to be constantly thinking about it that way.
And you, at certain points, never know what kind of a sales bubble you're walking into during that opportunity to sell something, to increase the sale, to sell your value. And that book sounds like a great opportunity to get in tune with who might be on the other side of that decision-making role.
Yeah, I mean, we have to understand that these are other humans we're dealing with, right? And when you deal with other humans, they come in all different kinds. And not every person is gonna, I've learned recently, not everyone's gonna like me. I don't know why it took this long.
Okay.
But I guess I had to become okay with that.
Right.
There's going to be people that just hate my guts. Maybe some of you watching right now are like, I don't like this guy. He's kind of...
I met him for 5 minutes on this presentation, and I don't like him.
I'll be back for the next session. I don't like him. But, I've realized that it's also our job to understand what we need to do to help other people communicate with us. Like, how do we meet them where they're at and help them see the vision or see where we're going with this without it feeling like you're shoving it down their throat. Right. The other really critical in becoming an expert, kind of on that vein, is finding mentors.
We've had a few podcasts like that.
Yeah. In fact, we had somebody that didn't call it a mentor. She called it a, what did she call it? It was like she called it a sponsor. She called it a sponsor. And I thought that was really neat, because you think every turn is going to have something new in the events world. No doubt. There are people who have encountered this before you, though. There are people who have dealt with this problem, maybe not a pandemic, but a problem like it. In fact, when all this happened, when the pandemic kind of hit, I was in business in 2008 when all that, financial meltdown happened. Paige, you weren't.
I was not.
And when COVID started to kind of develop, I was like, I could see it in your eyes. You'd never been through...
I wore it all over my face.
Yeah, and you'd never been through real crisis.
Not in my adult career, no.
But I had. And I was like, look, I don't know what's going to happen with the world, but I know that if we stay together and we stay focused on what we know works and make sure that our customers get what they need.
What they need,
we will be all right. And I promised you that we would survive this. And so far, so good.
Thankfully, because we took those pivotal moments to add value in every I say that in a way because I have to remember in every conversation I have, whether it's an initial conversation with a new prospect or I'm pitching our services to someone, I have to remember to add value and figure out what their needs are so I can crucially add value to them.
Right. Yeah, and then the other piece of the becoming an expert part, and this is one of my, I guess, the things you can't really shortcut. Like audiobooks will help you. They certainly are a shortcut to your wisdom, right? Podcasts, having a mentor or a sponsor, totally a shortcut. A lot of people won't do it. It takes work. But the only other thing that you can't shortcut is getting experience through time. And I don't mean chronological time that passes, but number of reps or times you've done that thing.
Right.
Right? You could do one event this year, not do another event for 5 years and be like, well, I'm in the events business. And it's like, well, but how often are you exercising that skill?
Right.
And so experience and time is kind of the great multiplier of your skill, of your education. I mean, think about it. If you listen to an audiobook and you met with a mentor or sponsor once a week and you listen to an audiobook every day, do you know how much wisdom you would acquire in just 1 year? Imagine how much you would acquire in 5 years.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's almost mind-bending. That's 250 sessions if you did once a week after 5 years with someone else who has more knowledge than you pouring into you.
Think about 5 years ago, what 2015 looked like compared to 2020.
Right.
You just never know. And so bettering yourself now to make sure you're prepared for those future opportunities as well, I feel like is a great point to make.
Well, and if you think about it, not only is time the great multiplier, but it's also the only non-renewable resource. Time is a resource, right? But you can't get more of it. It's not renewable. It is expiring. Like, it's almost like you were given a punch card at the beginning of your life, and every day that goes by, a punch is coming out. You can't get another punch card.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, your time is a non-renewable resource, and that's why, you know, the people that I do spend my time with and the people that I do mentor, I make sure that they're getting value out of it. But more importantly, I make sure that I'm not spending my time pouring into things that are going to go nowhere.
Yeah.
And that's critical because, you know, and as you become an expert, you're going to have people reach out and be like, I want to pick your brain. I want to pick your brain. And I'm like, look, my brain has been picked. I don't need my brain picked anymore. I don't have time to have my brain picked. If you're looking for a mentor, somebody to help you along the way, not just a one-off coffee meeting, you know, let's talk about that.
That's more valuable.
Way more valuable. And again, the gift of time, it is a gift. And so if you have a mentor, make sure that you're appreciative of them and their time. I mean, I personally have half a dozen people that mentor me regularly and challenge my thinking. I mean, I had one business decision that was driving me insane. And I had this one friend who's a mentor of mine, and he was like, when are you gonna quit being stupid? When are you gonna cut the cord on that? You're wasting your time. Why are you doing that? You're wasting your time. You're wasting your life on that. And it took a lot of convincing. And when I took his advice, it was insane how good it was. So that's the other thing. If you have a mentor and they're coaching you, don't not do something with it. When you learn something or something is revealed to you, and it may even be a leader in your organization, and that was the other thing I was going to say, the leadership of your organization, they may be good mentors for you. You may want to say, you know what, that person is where I want to be. They also are my leader. Maybe they would be willing to formally mentor me once a week. Or even once a month.
When I first started, you did that with me, and I can't express how much value I got out of that opportunity when we agreed to do it and sit down once a week for about a half hour. And going into it, had no idea what to expect. Didn't know what you mentoring me really meant.
Who's this crazy guy talking
We didn't
about?
Establish parameters around what I was expecting to get out of it. And you had me do some exercises, read books, do things that put me out of my comfort zone. But because I did that, and because I took your advice and the value that you were giving to me in the years of experience, I think, although initially very afraid at the beginning of COVID, and wore it all over my face, it prepared me to look at the scenario in a way that I have the tools to be able to add value to these conversations, to the team, to what I'm doing, because we don't have much else right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that brings me to another really interesting point, and that is, think about your betterment and your education as a lifelong process. It's not a destination, it's a journey. In fact, I liken it to eating food and taking your vitamins, not here's a magic pill and it's all cured if you take that pill. Like, enjoy the journey of this. Enjoy the frustration and it's hard to say that, but enjoy embrace those moments where something rubs you the wrong way and you go, I just don't know if maybe my head is not right and I'm not understanding this. But remember, you gotta embrace those things. Like I said, my friend who was telling me this, this business thing I needed to stop doing, and it made all the difference. But it was very abrasive to me. I was
really?
Like, well, yeah, it was like in my face a little bit. I mean, he would call me and tell me for 45 minutes why I'm an idiot for continuing on this path of this thing. And I was like, yeah, and he's like, you can't push back too hard on that, especially when it made a lot of sense. And I finally listened to his advice. And
Why?
Because I knew deep down that he was right. And that if I didn't take his advice, number one, I would never know, for sure. But number two, I knew he was right. I knew I just was lying to myself. Like I was just I knew what I needed to do, but I didn't have the guts to do it. And I knew that once I did it, it would be good. And I did, finally, after months of convincing. And it has made a world of difference. It's taken stress off my life. I've been happier. And offline, I'll share with you what it is. But it was something that just was eating my soul.
So in those
he saw it.
Initial conversations, what value proposition, what was he telling you? If you did this, if you changed this, what value was he bringing to the table for you?
Well, he was being honest. And I think that's a big part of having a good mentor and a friend, is someone who will call you on your BS. Mm-hmm. And they'll be like, you know what? I think you're just not saying it, but that you've got this all backwards. And that is, I think accountability is a scary thing. Like, I hate the idea of being accountable to somebody. Like, I don't want to no. But at the end of the day, I think somebody who really has your best interests at heart and is willing to be honest with you and help you be accountable, you will only grow from that. And if that person is your leader, like in your organization, if you went to your leader and you truly had that connection where they could be honest with you and mentor you, and think of the heights you could achieve. They would bring you up to their level. They're thinking on their level. And if they're mentoring you, they're going to bring you up. So be careful, because the people you spend your time with every day, that has a lot to do with it.
Well, they all add value in different ways, whether it's good value or value
or negative value.
Or negative value.
They always say that, I don't want to bring it always back to money, but they say take your 5 closest friends, average their salaries, and that's your salary. That's how much money you make.
Okay.
And, there might be some truth to that. And so you might just want to think, well, why would that be? Maybe we all think alike, So the next thing I want to move on to, and I think this is important, especially right now, you want to innovate. And don't innovate for innovation's sake, but innovate because our business and your team and your leadership needs innovation.
Well, average people don't innovate.
No, they don't. And honestly, you guys, because of how like here, I have my phone here. I can't tell you, it would be embarrassing for me to tell you the screen report time of my phone. And you know what? I just keep thinking, how do I eliminate just a little of that every day? Mm-hmm. How many distractions are taking your mind away from critical thinking and problem solving? Like, we sit in meetings and everyone's got these Apple Watches. Mm-hmm. I have one. I'm not wearing it today. I only wear it on days that I work out. So like once a month. No, I'm just kidding. But
he's not lying.
No, I went on a bike ride yesterday.
Keep going.
Okay. So, but during the meeting, it's like this thing is like flicking your wrist. And then, so you're like in the meeting and then all of a sudden it flicks your wrist and you're like, am I not right? And so now I've made it a point that when people do that and we're in a meeting, if I'm presenting, I just stop talking.
He does.
Because you stop listening.
You did it to me a half hour ago.
Yeah. Because it's so funny. I don't know if you notice this, but people will be like, I mean, come on. Like, I see you. Just get your damn phone out, okay? It'll be quicker. So my point is, the only way we can innovate, though, is to have white space in our mind. And that's why I encourage our team and everybody we know to take clarity breaks.
Yes.
Step away. You guys go on walks.
Yes.
Step away, take a break, have some head space. I recommend doing it alone. The other thing I really like, and I need to do this more, is when I have meetings with people, have the meetings on a walk.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Have the meeting on a walk. This is what Steve Jobs did. By the way, if you haven't listened to Steve Jobs' book, I've listened to it 3 times now. It's by Walter Isaacson. Such a great book. It's really long, but it's inspiring as hell. And that's how Steve met with people. He wouldn't meet with you. He'd go on a walk with you, but he wouldn't meet with you. So I recommend.
But some pretty innovative ideas came from those conversations.
Think about, you want white space in your mind. I mean, for me, nothing gives me white space more than, well, one of 2 things. Either a walk in nature or the shower. I don't know why. When I'm taking a shower, I come up with the craziest ideas.
Well, you have uninterrupted time on your hands.
Yeah, I don't have my phone dinging at me. But now that it's waterproof, maybe I'll just bring it in the shower and be distracted 24/7. Okay, this is the other thing, and this is what I want to wrap up with.
Okay.
Don't be afraid of your crazy ideas. Don't be afraid of your crazy ideas. This is the hardest one to get over because we are constantly in fear of being judged. We're constantly in fear of people saying, that's stupid. Our whole life, the word we heard more than any other word was what? No. And it's scary to hear the word no. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
When somebody says the word no to you, you're like, oh, right?
Well, every sales proposal conversation I have is a yes or a no.
Yeah. And it's scary. And what I want to finish with is that if you're the person bringing ideas, now make sure you think them through. Ask yourself those questions too, like, well, how would this work? Well, how would this work? Well, how would this work?
Well, and tying it back to what they need.
Yeah.
Think of a crazy idea that ties into what they need. What is their problem at hand? Are you just replying to an RFP or a conversation that they asked for a bid or a proposal? Or are you actually looking at some organizational problems or past events or past things that they've done and figured out what they might need and bring a crazy idea to that?
Yeah. And that ultimately is going to be up to kind of that like white space in your mind that you allow it to breathe and think, and you can question it, bounce it off of people. But ultimately, and I really want you to walk away with this, people love great ideas. Leadership is always hungry for ideas.
Leave them with a story of one of your best, most recent meetings and pitches that you did.
Are you referring to one in particular?
Yeah.
Which one?
Where you brought a crazy idea to the CMO. Didn't get executed, but you brought a crazy idea to them.
Which one were you talking about?
It was in the studio here.
You guys, I come up with so many silly ideas. Who was it with? Which client?
We did an event in Las Vegas with them recently.
Oh, the crazy idea of which part, though?
The cable car.
Oh, I thought you were warming up to that, but I was like, I don't know where she's going with this. Thank you. Okay, so we're in this pitch, and it goes really well, and it's for a huge convention in Las Vegas. And they're like, okay, we're going to have the other pitches happen. They come back to us and they're like, hey, all the pitches are done. Yours was incredible. We want to bring you in for round 2. And of course, you're like, oh my gosh,
Another
the pressure is on. So they bring us in for round 2, and it's in their offices. And in their office, they were like, we're trying to come up with new innovative ideas. You guys did this great pitch.
It was an innovation conference.
Yeah, it was an innovation conference. And they're like, you got this crazy, amazing setup, but like, what could we do differently that would be really cool? And I don't know why, it just came to me in the middle of the meeting, and their chief marketing officer's there, and there's, leadership. I said, what we should do is we should put a cable cam up that spans the entire room. Like, I'm talking from the back of this 3,000 person ballroom to the front, right? And so I'm like explaining it, and they're all looking kind of confused, except one guy on the leadership team. And he goes, I've always wanted to do that. It's funny, I just saw a video about that. We're definitely going to do that. And it was like a crazy kind of gut. Sorry, it took me forever to remember what she was talking about. But this was that was about a year ago now.
Yeah, hold on.
But the important thing was, take risks on your ideas. Don't be afraid to share them. Look, what's the worst that someone can say to your crazy idea? No. Okay, you've heard that word how many times in your life now? Like, think about it. It's okay.
Well, and you get one shot, one moment in time for that impression and that idea, like you referenced before. We only have one opportunity to do this. Yeah,
I mean, it brings me to one last thing, and that is, the events industry. There's so many platforms out there for virtual events. But what's the biggest frustration of all of us? We're like, these are so confusing and so cumbersome. And how do you execute on it? And we've been doing the live broadcast stuff forever, called the Engagement Hub. And I came up with this crazy idea to take a software we already own the technology on and repurpose it for the events industry, because it's really simple and easy to use, but it's also very powerful for expos and exhibits and all the different stuff, but online. And I finally was like, we got to do this. This is about 3-4 months ago.
Yeah.
And so we started development on it with a really, really awesome team. And we're going to be launching it. It's called Second Stage. And I'm really excited about that. But remember, I didn't come up with that idea on accident. That was white space. That was time that I had to think and come up with what are the problems and how do we solve them.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, we as people in the industry have to be thinking about how we deliver value and help others. And the only way that happens is to be better yourself first. And when you are, it'll not only change your life, but it'll change your organization and every single person that sits in your audience from here on out.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah, I guess so. If you have any questions on our strategies, tactics, the bullcrap we talked about today, reach out to us. We are here to help. We're here to run ideas past in this crazy time and help all of you continue to add value in every conversation that you have. So Paige@idecom.com. Reach out to me. Charles gets enough emails.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. I hope you got a lot out of this. And if there's anything we can do to help you, we're always here for you.
Thank you so much, Paige. Everybody, thanks for joining. And if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. Paige is very generous, letting us email you. I don't know if you're up for some more questions at this time. The session is officially over. So let me know what your thoughts are, Paige, if you wanted to take a question. Let's see here. I wish you all a very good afternoon. And great. Frankie, thank you for the compliments. Great. On that note, we will, oh, there you go. Paige's email is in the chat. Thank you so much for putting that forward and the generous offer for us to reach out and ask you about strategy. There were some great stories and tips and so many takeaways. I appreciate you and Charles Eide's perception, suggestions, stories, and suggestions on the podcast are in the chat as well. At this time, we'll be stopping the recording and moving on to what comes next. Central Perk is a place that you can bump into one another, shoulder to shoulder, and have some continued chats. Thank you, everybody.